This episode contains themes that some viewers might find disturbing. Listener discretion is advised. The region's nickname, the Land of Parnas, means the Land of Secrets. And according to legend, the only way to keep them safe is by burying them in the ground. But sometimes the secrets don't stay buried. Like the story of the abandoned Bhargavi temple, whose 700-year-old halls are said to whisper about an evil that lives among us, the evil we keep inside. And the sound of traffic was replaced by the croaking of frogs. But once I proved I wasn't afraid, they pointed me towards a thin, crooked staircase hidden behind the temple. And on the first page, scrunched up in the corner, was a lock of my hair. The one Arav used to tease me about because it stuck straight up in the middle of my forehead. I opened the diary to the first entry dated August 2023, the day Arav disappeared. The next entry was dated November, and he wrote of unsettling dreams that bled into reality. Her name was Marigold. And I wondered if Arav had found her spirit wandering the forest, calling out to him, desperate for his help. He was always a sensitive guy, even as a kid. If anyone could hear the cries of a restless spirit, it would be him. And yet none of the diary entries mentioned him trying to escape. Something had brought him here, and nothing would persuade him to leave. The spirits were real, and they needed my help. I remembered the girl from his dreams, Marigold, and realized she must have died during the ritual sacrificed by the same priest all those years ago. And now she was trapped in the temple, forever mourning her loss. I gasped because behind me, reflected in the glass, I saw a figure in a white dress. They looked to the temple in horror, unsure of what to make of the event, and no one ever saw Meera again. If you want to see more from us, hit subscribe to get notified every time we drop a new video. But tourists who visit the temple today report hearing twin voices chanting behind the altar, one always slightly out of sync. Some say it's a warning, some a plea, and others believe it's a lure, but the bells keep ringing. I whirled around, but there was no one there. The diary lay forgotten on the floor. And for a fleeting moment, I saw the face of a girl with skin the color of marigolds and hair woven from spider silk. Then she vanished, leaving me with the diary and the choice. Stay and become the new Belle of Bhargavi, or go and live the rest of my life knowing my brother was trapped here forever. When he closed his eyes, he saw the face of a young girl with skin the color of marigolds and hair woven from spider silk. I recalled a conversation with one of the locals who said that if you ring the smallest bell, your wish will come true, but it could take decades. To get the medium bell to ring, you need to bring a precious gem. And if you ring the largest bell, well, they say you must bring the purest offering of all your soul. She beckoned to him from the depths of his sleep, her eyes filled with a bottomless sorrow. I watched in horror as it fell and cracked against the stone floor. Inside, a photo fluttered out, showing me and Arav as kids outside our house. I could see our mom waving from the doorway and our dog Lucky running across the lawn. For a moment, I felt happy. Then the ground beneath my feet began to shake, and the statue on the far wall rumbled like thunder. The eyes on the wall glowed with malevolent light, and shadowy reflections danced across the ceiling. Whispers echoed around me, speaking in an ancient form of Tamil, and I could have sworn I heard my brother's voice calling my name. And when he woke, he could still feel her tugging at his mind, begging him to follow. It was built upon the ashes of children sacrificed by a blind priest hundreds of years ago. Those innocent souls had watched him melt down their anklets and forge them into the very bells that called to me from above. The one who did this was a seer named Agastya, who claimed to have seen the future in the trinkets people wore. He offered to show parents the future of their children in exchange for gold. And when they agreed, he took their offerings to the temple and drowned them in the river nearby. Then he collected their anklets, melted them down, and made the bells that now hung from the ceiling. Legend says that the more souls he collected, the clearer his visions became. And when he rang the bells, the spirits of the children he sacrificed sang with him. He wrote about the journey, the road leading him deeper into the jungle than he expected. And as he climbed out of his car, he saw the temple for the first time, calling to him with a voice he felt in his bones. This one contained a single statue carved into the shape of a woman with a gaping maw. The walls shimmered with tiny golden tiles that glittered like stars. And at the end, I could just make out the faint outline of a woman seated on a throne. My gaze dropped to the floor, noticing rows of small holes, perfectly round and evenly spaced, like a series of eyes staring blindly ahead. They were the same size as the anklets Arav used to borrow. Below her was a stone tablet covered in indecipherable Sanskrit. And when I ran my fingers across the surface, a section of the tablet swung open to reveal a set of stairs leading down into the darkness. I shone my flashlight inside and gasped. If the entrance was supposed to be impressive, the interior most certainly was not. There were only 2 small rooms. The outer one was filled with shattered statues and rotting flowers, and the air hung heavy with the scent of decay. My flashlight flickered over a crude stone altar and a bowl filled with what looked like congealed blood. Whatever rituals took place here long ago were not meant to honor the gods. Before long, I was standing at the foot of the hill where the temple stood in all its dilapidated glory. It was constructed of granite and adorned with intricate carvings of Hindu deities, but centuries of erosion had taken their toll. But by the next entry, dated September, his tone had changed. He described the villagers, their blank eyes, vacant smiles, and hushed whispers whenever his name was mentioned. According to them, he was dead, gone these 3 months. And now I was the only person alive who knew he was here. Nature had reclaimed much of the grounds, and the only sign of worship was a faded red dot painted onto the floor in front of the main shrine. The mist-wrapped village of Taksimala clings to the lower slopes of the Western Ghats, hidden deep within the valleys of southern India. Legend has it that the goddess Bhargavi chose this place as her dwelling because it was here, atop this hill, that the demon king Bali was banished from the heavens. After killing his own father, Bali was cast down into the depths of the earth, condemned to spend eternity trapped between the realms of the living and the dead, forever hungry, forever thirsty, forever alone. Then from the depths below, he cried out to the goddess Durga, asking for solace. Impressed by his misery, she descended from the skies with the power of fire in her hands, burned away his impurities, and raised him up as her son. Then with her own hands, she sculpted a woman from clay and imbued her with a piece of her own divinity, then sent her to walk the earth and collect the suffering of humanity. She was named Bhargavi, the goddess of secrets, and the world has not been the same since. The locals believe that when the bells of the temple ring without wind, it means the goddess has chosen someone to carry her burden. The heavy, heavy price of her gift, a curse wrapped in gold and silence. Now, skeptics like me scoff at such tales, right? But not everyone can stomach the idea of a curse. Take my grandfather, for instance. He told me stories of the Bell Temple until I was sick of hearing them, even though he never went there himself. It was enough for him to stand at the edge of town and hear the distant chimes ringing through the valleys. That was enough to make him shake his head and murmur, "Let some things be better left undisturbed." But I didn't listen. I wanted to prove him wrong, maybe because I lost my grandmother and my twin brother, Arav, within months of each other. Grief had driven a wedge between me and my parents, who moved to the city after the funerals. I needed something to fill the empty space where my brother used to be. So when I learned that Arav had researched the temple before going missing, I was sure he'd found evidence to debunk the legends. And if I could do the same, it would be my first step towards healing. So I packed my bags, ignoring my dad's protests that I was going to a dangerous, desolate place full of superstitious villagers. What did he know, right? I thought I was in control. And yet the second I stepped into Taksimala, the atmosphere seemed to change. There were barely any cars or streetlights. When I asked the locals how to get inside, they just shook their heads and warned me to leave before dark. That's when I found the diary. It was lying beneath my pillow, the leather cover worn smooth from being handled so often. I read on, my heart pounding with every word, for it was clear that Arav had come to this place seeking answers. A third diary entry explained that Arav was staying in a hut at the base of the hill, keeping watch over the temple, waiting for something to happen. According to the locals, a girl did die here many years ago. I started making my way up the hill, following the path described in the last entry, only to discover another clearing at the top. This was the entrance to the temple's secret sanctum. A chill ran down my spine, for this was no ordinary temple. By the time I reached the main chamber, I understood why Arav hadn't left. I gazed at the central bell and realized that it must be the biggest, the most powerful, and the hardest to move. My hand trembled as I reached out to touch it, and the diary slipped from my grasp. As I turned to look, the altar slid back, revealing a mirror. When the sun finally crested over the cursed valley, the villagers awoke to the toll of all 13 bells, something that had never happened in living memory. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the No Sleep Podcast.